Hello, dear listeners, and welcome to Sleepy Science Teller. It's lovely to have you here tonight. For as long as humans have looked up at the night sky, we've wondered, are we alone? Billions of stars, each one perhaps with its own planets, its own oceans, its own skies. Could alien life be out there, or even closer than we think? Could it possibly be hiding in plain sight? Before we begin our journey through this cosmic mystery, I'd love to know where you're listening from tonight. Maybe it's evening where you are, or maybe the quiet hours before dawn. Share your location and time in the comments. It's always fascinating to see how many dreamers we have listening from all around the world. And if you enjoy these calming explorations into science and wonder, please take a moment to gently tap that like button and subscribe. It helps our little community grow and ensures you never miss a new journey into the universe. Tonight, we begin a voyage through one of the most timeless questions ever asked by humankind. A question whispered beneath countless stars, pondered by poets, dreamers, and scientists alike. Are we alone? Is a thought that stretches beyond imagination, reaching deep into the silence of the cosmos and into the stillness of your own mind. When you look up at the night sky, at the glimmering stars far above, it's almost impossible not to wonder what might be looking back. The universe, with all its quiet brilliance, feels alive in its own way, as if the stars themselves are keeping secrets, as if the planets hum faint lullabies, and as if the very fabric of space is breathing slowly like a living thing. This is where our story begins, not with loud explosions or bright lights, but with quiet curiosity, with the slow rhythm of thought, and the gentle heartbeat of possibility. So, as you settle deeper into stillness, let your mind open to the endless questions that drift through the universe, questions that don't demand answers, but instead invite you to dream. Perhaps you're lying in bed, perhaps you're curled up with a warm blanket, or simply resting your head against a soft pillow. Wherever you are, this time belongs entirely to you. A space to imagine, to wonder, to explore softly, without hurry, without noise. Tonight, we'll explore the thought that maybe alien life isn't as distant as we think. Maybe it's hiding in plain sight. As you listen to the quiet hum of your own breath, think about how fragile and extraordinary life truly is. Somewhere in the grand timeline of the cosmos, a few simple molecules came together and began to dance. That dance became chemistry, then biology, and then eventually consciousness. From dust to dreams. It's easy to forget sometimes that the atoms making up your body were born in the hearts of stars. Every breath you take contains particles once carried through ancient galaxies. You are, in a very real way, a collection of stardust, alive, aware, and curious. So when we ask, could alien life be hiding in plain sight? What we're really asking is something deeper. How much of life have we yet to notice? Maybe life doesn't always sparkle or move or breathe as we do. Maybe it hums in the quiet frequencies we've never learned to hear. Maybe, as we search for signs of intelligence among the stars, we overlook the possibilities that surround us here every single day. There's something poetic in that thought, that perhaps, while we look outward, the answers we seek could already be whispering to us, right here on Earth. The ancient philosophers often spoke of hidden worlds, layers of existence invisible to human sight. Modern science, in its own way, echoes that idea. We've learned that most of the universe is made of dark matter, a mysterious substance that doesn't emit light, yet shapes the galaxies themselves. It's unseen but powerful, and maybe, just maybe, life can be that way too. So as the world outside drifts quietly into night, and your breathing slows into a peaceful rhythm, let's open a window of thought and look beyond what we can see, because perhaps the universe isn't empty at all. Perhaps it's brimming with life, hidden in plain sight, just waiting for us to look differently. Close your eyes for a moment, if you'd like, and imagine the night sky stretched endlessly above you, each star like a heartbeat of the cosmos, each one a sun, perhaps with its own family of planets, its own blue skies, its own gentle winds. Try to picture it, the sheer number of worlds that could exist, 1,000 billion suns, each surrounded by spinning spheres of possibility, and among them, maybe one planet glows with faint lights, or whispers with movement under alien seas, or hums with invisible forms of energy that think and feel and dream. You can almost sense it, that quiet awareness, that presence, just beyond the veil of what we know. There's a certain calm in realizing that the question, are we alone, might already have an answer that doesn't need to shout or reveal itself, but simply exists, waiting patiently like a soft ripple in the cosmic ocean. As you drift deeper into this gentle thought, imagine that maybe life doesn't always announce itself with form or color. Maybe it lives in the magnetic fields, in the movement of particles, in the quiet logic of quantum vibrations. Maybe, to the universe, life is not rare at all, but a natural expression of being, just as the ocean naturally forms waves. Perhaps the universe naturally forms life, and maybe we are one of many waves in that infinite sea. Tonight, we begin not with proof, not with facts carved in stone, but with wonder, because wonder is where all discovery begins. So settle in, let the stillness wrap around you like a soft blanket, and allow your thoughts to wander freely, without resistance, for in this quiet space, between wakefulness and dreams, you may find yourself closer than ever to the mystery itself. Imagine the night sky above a silent landscape, the world around you hushed and still, as the stars shimmer faintly like thoughts scattered across the heavens. Every light you see above is a sun, distant and powerful, perhaps with planets orbiting around it, each one carrying its own possibilities, its own quiet stories. For thousands of years, human beings have stood beneath these skies, wondering, yearning to know whether those distant worlds are empty or alive with something more. From ancient times to modern science, we have carried the same question like a candle through darkness. Are we alone? It is both a question of science and of the soul. We've sent radio waves into the blackness, hoping that somewhere someone might be listening. We've pointed telescopes toward far-off galaxies, searching for tiny glimmers of planets where life could bloom. And still, the silence lingers. Yet, in that silence, there is mystery. And within that mystery, there is comfort. Because silence doesn't mean emptiness. Silence can mean waiting. It can mean listening. It can mean that something or someone is simply hidden, watching quietly, existing in a way we don't yet understand. When you think about it, the universe has always been full of hidden things. Before microscopes, we didn't know bacteria existed. Before telescopes, we didn't know galaxies swirled beyond our own. And before we discovered radio waves, We couldn't even imagine invisible energy passing all around us, every second of every day. So perhaps alien life isn't something that will suddenly appear in a burst of light or arrive from the stars in a spaceship. Maybe it's been here all along, unseen, unrecognized, moving softly between the boundaries of what we call life. Science has taught us something beautiful. That discovery is not about adding new things to the world, but about noticing what has been there all along. So tonight, as you rest, let your thoughts drift beyond what is visible. Imagine that somewhere in the quiet vastness, there are other forms of being, some familiar, some completely alien, all woven into the same cosmic tapestry. And perhaps we are not so different from them after all. Close your eyes and think about the Earth for a moment. From space, it glows like a fragile blue marble, floating quietly in a sea of darkness. It looks peaceful, gentle, yet on its surface, there's movement, color, sound, and endless life. If an alien civilization were to look at our planet from a distance, would they see the signs of our existence? Would they notice our cities glowing faintly in the night? Our radio waves spilling softly into the cosmos? Or would we appear silent to them? Just another quiet world, circling its sun in perfect stillness? Now imagine the same from our perspective. When we look at distant planets through telescopes, we see only faint points of light, a flicker here, a shadow there. To us, they seem lifeless, just spheres of rock, gas, and dust. But what if we're missing something? What if, on one of those tiny, flickering worlds, there are oceans shimmering under alien skies, forests unlike any we've imagined, and beings who, at this very moment, are looking back at us, wondering the same thing. Are we alone? The mystery isn't only scientific. It's emotional. It's a reflection of our need to connect, our longing to understand our place in the vastness. When we dream of aliens, we aren't just thinking of creatures from other worlds. We're thinking of other forms of existence, different expressions of the same cosmic energy that gave birth to us. And in that way, the search for alien life is really a search for ourselves. As you listen to this quiet thought, you might notice how big the universe feels. Yet somehow, it's comforting to realize that our curiosity connects us to it. Every person who's ever looked up at the stars, from ancient astronomers to modern scientists, has felt that same pull, the feeling that we're part of something enormous, something breathing and endless. And that's the essence of this mystery. Not fear, not loneliness, but belonging. The possibility that life is not a rare accident, but a universal pattern, woven throughout creation, manifesting in ways we've only begun to imagine. So perhaps the question is not whether alien life exists, but how it exists, and how it may already be closer than we realize. There's an old idea in astronomy known as the cosmic ocean. It imagines the universe not as a collection of isolated planets, but as a vast, interconnected sea. Each star a drop of light, each planet a small island of possibility. In this sea, life may be as natural as waves. It may rise and fall, change form, and drift through the ages, quietly, patiently, unseen. You can almost picture it. The invisible tide of life moving through galaxies, slipping between particles, adapting to every kind of world imaginable. Maybe on a frozen moon, tiny organisms cling to crystals of ice, drawing energy from starlight. Maybe deep within the clouds of a gas giant, ribbon-like beings float gently, feeding on chemicals in the air, or maybe right here on Earth, in some corner of existence too small or too strange for our senses. Other life forms share this planet with us, moving in rhythms we cannot perceive. The beauty of this mystery is that it's not bound by answers. It's an open invitation to imagine, to explore, to feel awe. And that's what science truly is. Not just numbers and formulas, but wonder, a way of seeing that turns mystery into poetry and curiosity into connection. When we stare into the night sky, we're not looking into emptiness. We're looking into history and possibility and mirrors of our own existence. So as you rest tonight, let that thought cradle your mind that maybe the universe is alive in more ways than we can see. That maybe alien life isn't something far away or impossible, but a truth gently waiting to be recognized. And that this mystery, this beautiful, infinite unknown, is not something to fear, but something to cherish, for it reminds us that we are part of something vast, something interconnected, something eternally alive. And so the mystery continues, quietly, softly, endlessly. Take a slow breath in and imagine the night sky above you, dark, endless, and sprinkled with light. Every point of light you see up there is a sun, some smaller, some larger, some young and vibrant, others ancient and fading. The mind can hardly hold it all. Even the smallest patch of night sky, the size of a fingernail held at arm's length, contains thousands upon thousands of stars. And that's only what our eyes can see. When scientists turn the Hubble Space Telescope toward an apparently empty patch of space, a tiny black square of sky, they discovered something astonishing. In that single dark speck, they found over 10,000 galaxies, each galaxy a vast island of hundreds of billions of stars. Try to picture that. Just one small corner of the sky, holding more suns than all the grains of sand on every beach on Earth combined. Now imagine expanding that view, outward, outward, ever outward, until you encompass the entire universe. 2 trillion galaxies, perhaps more, each one like a shimmering spiral of stars, nebulae, and worlds beyond counting. It's a scale so immense that the human mind cannot truly grasp it, and yet it exists. It's out there, quietly breathing in the cold dark, unfolding over billions of years, as if the universe itself is dreaming. When you look at the night sky, you're looking into the past. Light from the stars takes time to reach us, sometimes thousands, sometimes millions, and sometimes billions of years. That means the starlight you see tonight may have begun its journey long before the first humans ever walked the earth. It's a humbling, beautiful thought that the sky is not only above us, but behind us in time. Each shimmer of light is a message from history, a whisper from ages long gone, carrying the story of the cosmos across eternity. And yet, despite all this immensity, life, at least as we know it, has taken root here, on one small, pale blue planet, in a quiet arm of a single galaxy. The odds might seem impossibly small, but then again, perhaps they are not small at all. Because when something as vast as the universe exists, even the rarest event can happen countless times. Let's take a gentle step further. If you were to travel outward from our Earth, you would first pass the moon, only about 1.25 light seconds away. Then you'd drift past the orbit of Mars, then Jupiter, then the icy edges of our solar system. At this point, you'd still be within our tiny cosmic neighborhood, a place so small that it would hardly make a dot on the map of the Milky Way. The Milky Way itself is an enormous spiral galaxy, a collection of perhaps 400 billion stars, swirling together like a slow, graceful whirlpool. If you could travel from one edge to the other, moving at the speed of light, it would take you over 100,000 years. And even then, you would have only crossed one galaxy. Our universe contains 2 trillion more. In that endless ocean of galaxies, there must be worlds that shimmer with oceans like ours, and skies heavy with clouds, and air filled with possibility. Some might be frozen and silent. Others might be alive, with colors and creatures beyond anything we can imagine. To think of it is to feel both small and infinite at once. Carl Sagan once said, "The cosmos is within us. We are made of star stuff." And he was right. Every atom in your body, every piece of you, was once part of a star that lived and burned and died long before Earth even existed. You are not separate from the universe. You are the universe, experiencing itself through thought, through breath, through wonder. And so, when we talk about alien life, we are not really talking about strangers from beyond. We are talking about distant reflections of ourselves, other ways that the universe might have chosen to awaken. If the cosmos is truly endless, if it contains trillions upon trillions of worlds, that would be far stranger for life to have appeared only here. Mathematically, the odds almost demand that life must have blossomed elsewhere, and perhaps that life does not dwell on a faraway planet, hidden in shadow. Perhaps it floats in gas clouds, or grows within asteroids, or hums in the invisible fields of dark matter itself. The universe is full of secrets, and perhaps one of those secrets is that life is not the exception, but the rule. Now, as we drift deeper into this thought, let's imagine the universe not as empty space, but as an ocean of potential. Between the stars lies dark matter, a mysterious substance that neither shines nor glows, but binds galaxies together. It makes up most of the mass of the cosmos, yet we cannot see it, touch it, or even detect it directly. And still, it's there. If something so enormous, so foundational, can exist unseen, then perhaps life can too. Maybe the cosmos is alive in subtle ways, not with creatures or cells, but with energy, rhythm, and consciousness woven into its fabric. Maybe galaxies are not merely collections of stars, but vast, slow-thinking entities, communicating through gravity and time. Maybe even the voids between them pulse with patterns we have yet to understand. Our instruments reach far, but our imagination reaches further. And imagination, guided by wonder, is the first tool of discovery. When scientists peer into deep space, they see light stretched thin by distance. Its color turned red as it travels through time. They call it redshift. But perhaps, hidden in that ancient light, there are other signals, subtle hints of creation and life, woven into the frequencies we haven't learned to read. The vastness of the universe is not meant to make us feel small. It is meant to remind us that we belong to something infinitely grand. We are not observers standing at the edge of existence. We are participants woven into its story. So as you rest now, and your thoughts grow soft and still, imagine that every breath you take connects you to that cosmic ocean. Each inhale, a whisper from the stars. Each exhale, a return to the universe that gave you life. In this vastness, we are not lost. We are found, and perhaps somewhere among the stars, another being, different yet familiar, is breathing too, wondering about us the same way we wonder about them. It's a comforting idea that across this endless sea of light and darkness, we are all connected by the same quiet curiosity. And in that sense, we are never truly alone. So let's pause and take a slow, deep breath together. Have you ever wondered what really makes something alive? It sounds simple, doesn't it? Yet when we look closer, the definition of life becomes as mysterious as the stars themselves. In our everyday world, we think of life as something that moves, that breathes, that grows, that reproduces. A flower turning its face toward the morning sun, a cat stretching lazily in a patch of light, a single cell dividing in the quiet depths of a droplet of water. These are all things we instinctively recognize as living. But what if life doesn't always follow the rules we know? Scientists, when they try to find life, often describe it as something that maintains order, something that uses energy to stay organized, something that responds to its environment and passes on information through reproduction. It sounds neat and precise, but when you really think about it, that definition begins to blur. Viruses, for instance, occupy a strange in-between space. They cannot move or reproduce on their own. Yet once they find a host, they awaken, almost like tiny machines springing to life. Are they alive? Or are they simply patterns of chemicals that pretend to live when the conditions are right? And then there are crystals, beautiful, geometric structures that grow and heal themselves and respond to their surroundings. They're not alive, at least not in the way we usually think. Yet they mimic many of life's qualities. It makes you wonder, doesn't it, if our human understanding of life is perhaps just a small corner of something much bigger, much broader than we can currently imagine. Maybe life isn't a single definition. Maybe it's a spectrum, a flowing, ever-changing state, with countless forms scattered across it, from the simplest self-replicating molecules to the most complex beings that can gaze into the stars and ask, who else might be out there? When we study the life we know, we find that every living thing on Earth shares a common thread, a molecular language written in DNA. This delicate code, built from 4 simple letters, A, T, C, and G, is what tells your cell how to grow, how to heal, how to think. From the tiniest bacteria hidden in ocean vents to the great whales drifting through the deep, all living beings speak the same molecular tongue. It's a remarkable unity, a sign, perhaps, that all life on Earth is part of a single, ancient family. But it also shapes how we imagine life elsewhere. When scientists design missions to search for alien life on Mars or the icy moons of Jupiter and Saturn, they often look for things that resemble what we already know. Molecules like water, carbon-based chemistry, familiar biological patterns. And yet, is that a limitation of our imagination? We assume that life needs what we need: liquid water, carbon, oxygen, a moderate temperature. But perhaps that's only because we evolved in this narrow range ourselves. If we had evolved in a world of methane oceans and ammonia rains, perhaps that would feel normal. Some scientists suggest that we might be making a quiet mistake, searching the cosmos for a mirror of ourselves, when in reality, the universe might have painted life in very different colors. Life, in the simplest sense, could just mean a system that can adapt, that can change and continue in some form. It could exist in ways we can barely begin to imagine. Maybe It doesn't even need to look organic. Could patterns of plasma in a star's atmosphere behave like a living organism? Could networks of magnetic fields carry information, replicate, and evolve in the void? We don't know yet, but it's this uncertainty that makes the search so quietly beautiful. Because every discovery we make, every new life form we find on Earth, in boiling sulfur springs and frozen deserts, in caves without sunlight, reminds us how adaptable life can be. It whispers that maybe the universe is teeming with life, but we just don't yet know how to recognize it. In recent decades, as we've uncovered more of Earth's mysteries, scientists have begun to gently question whether our definition of life might be too narrow. Life, after all, may not be confined to carbon and water. It could emerge from silicon or ammonia, or even forms of energy that drift through other dimensions of matter. The philosopher and astrobiologist Carol Cleland once said that we might be surrounded by a shadow biosphere, a realm of life that exists alongside ours, using chemistry so alien that we simply can't detect it. Imagine microorganisms living in the soil beneath your feet, not made of DNA or proteins, but of something entirely different, invisible to our microscopes, undetectable by our tests, quietly thriving in the same world, yet completely separate from it. If such life existed, we might have walked past it every day, never realizing that alien life was not in the stars, but right here, beside us. This possibility urges us to rethink what life truly means. Perhaps life isn't defined by what it's made of, but by what it does. It seeks to survive, to adapt, to continue in some form, even when conditions change. That persistence, that spark, might be the only true constant of life, no matter what universe it belongs to. So, as we drift deeper into this quiet thought, as we imagine what might be hidden in plain sight, it's comforting to remember that life, in all its endless forms, seems to find a way, whether in the ocean's darkest trench, or on a faraway planet bathed in methane rain, or even in patterns of matter that we've yet to recognize as living. Life somehow endures. And perhaps that's the most profound truth of all, that the universe, in its infinite creativity, may be whispering life into existence everywhere, softly, quietly, right before our eyes. Let's take a slow breath, in and out. The room around you softens, the world outside fades, and your mind drifts gently into the realm of imagination. We define life, or at least tried to, but now, let's ask something deeper. What if life exists in ways we haven't yet learned to see? For centuries, humanity believed the earth was the center of everything. We thought our world was unique, special, the only cradle of life. But as our eyes reached further into the stars, that belief began to unravel. We found billions of galaxies, each holding billions of stars, and around those stars, billions of planets. So many possibilities, so many hidden worlds. And yet, despite this vast cosmic abundance, the skies remain silent. No signals, no visits, no cosmic greetings. It's almost as if we are alone. But what if we're not? What if alien life isn't hiding in distant galaxies, but right here, around us, within us, or even beside us? Our technology, though powerful, is still shaped by our human senses. We see light only in a narrow range of wavelengths. We hear only certain vibrations. We perceive only what our bodies have evolved to notice. Could it be that life has found ways to exist beyond the limits of our perception? Forms that blend into the ordinary, that live in patterns, in energy fields, in molecular dances we mistake for chaos? Maybe what we call non-living matter isn't quite as lifeless as we think. Maybe Life is a pattern, a rhythm, repeating to the fabric of reality, in forms our eyes cannot grasp. When you watch the flicker of a flame, or the swirling motion of clouds, or the branching patterns of lightning, you might be witnessing the universe practicing its art of life, the dance of structure, energy, and transformation. It's possible that life doesn't just exist in the universe, but that the universe itself is alive in some grand, unknowable way. And that thought brings both wonder and peace. When we look at our own planet, we begin to see how much can remain hidden, even in plain sight. For most of human history, we didn't know that microbes existed. The air, the water, the soil, all seemed empty to us. It wasn't until the invention of the microscope that we realized our world was teeming with life, entire universes of it, unseen by human eyes. Tiny organisms living inside your body, in your skin, in your lungs, bacteria thriving in boiling acid, microbes floating in the stratosphere, carried by winds far above the clouds. These life forms were invisible to us for millennia, yet they were always there, right beside us, helping to shape the planet we live on. And that simple truth, that there are worlds within worlds, gives us a quiet hint. Perhaps the universe, too, hides layers of existence we cannot yet detect. Scientists call this the anthropic blindness, our natural tendency to assume that what we can't see doesn't exist. But over and over again, nature proves us wrong. In the deep sea, where sunlight never touches, new species are found almost every year. Glowing fish, translucent worms, and living fossils that defy all logic. In caves sealed off for millions of years, ecosystems survive without sunlight, feeding on the chemical energy from the rocks themselves. If life can flourish in boiling sulfur, in ice, in acid, in radiation, then who's to say it couldn't also exist in subtler forms, perhaps in plasma or magnetic fields or patterns of quantum energy? Some researchers have even suggested that we might be surrounded by non-biological life, made of data-like networks or self-organizing structures, what we might someday call emergent entities. If that sounds strange, remember, electricity itself once seemed magical. There was a time when lightning was thought to be a message from the gods. Now, we understand it as a transfer of energy, a dance of electrons in air. What if life, too, has expressions we simply haven't decoded yet? Forms that exist not as flesh and blood, but as information, structure, and rhythm. Perhaps, when we speak of hidden life, we are not looking for tiny green beings with eyes and hands, but for subtle, living systems that breathe through the pulse of matter itself. Now imagine this. You're walking through a quiet forest. A gentle breeze moves the leaves, and the air feels alive, as if the forest itself is breathing with you. The ground beneath your feet hums softly, not literally, but in that deep, subtle way nature always does. The trees communicate through their roots, sending messages through fungal networks. The soil beneath you is filled with microscopic lives, connecting everything, trees, plants, even you, in one living web. To the naked eye, it's just a forest. But beneath the surface, there is intelligence. There is cooperation. There is life, hiding in plain sight. It's a beautiful metaphor for the universe itself. Maybe the cosmos, too, is like that forest, interconnected, humming softly, filled with layers of life that we simply haven't learned to sense yet. Maybe there are beings made of electromagnetic fields, drifting between planets, or plasma-based entities born from the atmospheres of stars, or intelligent patterns of dark matter, invisible to all known instruments. Perhaps they are here, moving quietly through the spaces between atoms, watching, learning, or simply existing in ways we cannot yet imagine. If we open our minds and our hearts to the vast possibility of existence, then the universe becomes less of an empty void and more of a living, breathing being, full of hidden stories waiting to be uncovered. When we gaze at the stars, we might not just be looking at distant suns, but at ecosystems of light and energy whispering across the cosmic sea. And maybe, just maybe, some of that life is right here in plain sight, waiting for us to finally see it. Let's begin slowly, gently. Take a deep breath in and out, and let your thoughts settle, like dust floating through a sunbeam. When we imagine life on other worlds, we often think of grand, complex beings, perhaps creatures with eyes that glow or hands that reach out toward the stars. But what if the true conquerors of the universe are far smaller? Here on Earth, life exists everywhere, not just in forests and oceans, but deep beneath glaciers, inside volcanic vents, and even in the stone beneath our feet. At the heart of this unseen kingdom are the microbes, tiny, tireless, and endlessly adaptable. These minuscule beings, bacteria, archaea, and microscopic fungi, have lived on this planet for billions of years, long before humans ever existed. They are the silent architects of life itself, the invisible workers that shape air, soil, and water. Every breath you take, every mouthful of food depends on them. They fix nitrogen in the soil, recycle carbon in the oceans, and even help our own bodies function quietly and efficiently. They are everywhere, inside your gut, beneath the ocean floor, drifting through clouds, even within the rocks miles below the surface, where sunlight never shines. This hidden microbial world is a glimpse of what life might look like elsewhere. Simple, microscopic, yet astonishingly resilient. When we think of alien life, we often imagine beings that walk and talk. But perhaps most of the universe is home to the small and unseen, to microbes quietly thriving in environments we would find impossible. These humble forms of life remind us that existence does not require grandeur. It only needs persistence, a spark that refuses to go out. And maybe that same spark burns across countless other worlds, waiting patiently beneath layers of ice or clouds of gas hidden in plain sight. Now, let's drift a little deeper into the world of the extraordinary. On Earth, some microbes have learned to survive in conditions that would destroy almost anything else. We call them extremophiles, lovers of the extreme. They live where no one else can, in boiling hot springs, where water bubbles at temperatures above 120 degrees Celsius, in frozen lakes buried under kilometers of Antarctic ice, in acid so strong it can dissolve metal, and in the crushing darkness of deep ocean, where pressures could flatten a submarine. There are microbes that live inside nuclear reactors, surviving radiation hundreds of times stronger than what would kill a human instantly. Others thrive in pure salt, or in the toxic fumes of volcanoes, or in clouds of methane and sulfur. These beings don't just endure, they thrive. Take, for example, Deinococcus radiodurans, often called the Conan the bacterium. It can survive extreme radiation, freezing, dehydration, even the vacuum of space. Scientists once exposed it to the deadly environment outside a spacecraft, and when they brought it back inside, it simply repaired itself and continued to grow. Another example, Thermococcus gamma-tolerans, a heat and radiation-loving microbe found in deep-sea vents. It lives in a world of darkness, crushing pressure and boiling heat, and yet it's perfectly at home there. And then there are tardigrades, tiny creatures also known as water bears. They're not microbes, but they are microscopic. They can dry out completely, survive space, and come back to life years later when exposed to water again. They've traveled aboard satellites, endured cosmic rays, and returned unharmed, as if the universe itself cannot harm them. These extremophiles teach us something deeply humbling. They show that life is not fragile. It is tenacious, creative, and capable of thriving in the most impossible places. So, when we look up at Mars or Europa or Titan, moons covered in ice or cloaked in gas, we must remember that life doesn't need comfort. It only needs opportunity. If microbes can survive the extremes of Earth, why not elsewhere? Perhaps right now, beneath the red dust of Mars, or in the frozen cracks of Europa, tiny extremophiles are sleeping, waiting for a spark of warmth to awaken again. Now, close your eyes for a moment and imagine a dust grain drifting through the blackness of space. It's small, silent, and ancient. Attached to it clings a microscopic passenger, a spore, a dormant microbe, frozen in time. It travels for thousands, maybe millions of years, through radiation and cold, untouched by the emptiness around it. This idea that life can travel through space is known as panspermia, the possibility that planets, moons, and even entire solar systems could share life through the slow scattering of microbial seeds. When asteroids collide, they can fling fragments of one world into space. Some of those fragments might land on other planets, carrying microbes hidden deep inside, protected from heat and radiation. These microscopic travelers could remain dormant until they find a new home. It's a romantic thought that perhaps billions of years ago, a rock from Mars landed on Earth, carrying the first spark of life, or that Earth, too, might someday send its own travelers, not machines but microbes, to worlds yet unborn. And what's most extraordinary is that this may not be fantasy. Experiments on the International Space Station have shown that some microbes can indeed survive the vacuum of space for years. Some spores revive perfectly when brought back to Earth. Life, it seems, is built to spread. It doesn't stay confined to one planet. It reaches, it adapts, it travels, like light seeking new places to shine. So, when we think of alien life hiding in plain sight, perhaps we should look not to distant galaxies, but to the dust itself, to the soil, the air, the frozen comets, each one carrying potential for something living, something ancient, something waiting. Maybe the universe is not a cold, empty void at all, but a vast ocean filled with drifting seeds, tiny, invisible, and full of quiet purpose. And if that's true, then every atom, every grain of dust might carry within it the story of life itself. Let's begin quietly, slowly. Let the sound of your breath soften in and out. And imagine the world around you as a vast living ocean of life, most of which we cannot see. For all the wonder science has uncovered, from galaxies to genomes, there's a quiet, unsettling question that lingers in the background. What if we've missed something? What if, even here on Earth, life exists that we simply don't recognize? This idea is known as the shadow biosphere. It's a hauntingly beautiful thought that our planet might be home to an entire hidden ecosystem, a second form of life, coexisting with us, yet completely invisible to our instruments. Imagine tiny organisms living in the soil or in lakes or deep underground, not made of DNA or proteins like us, but of something entirely different, alien biochemistry that evolved alongside ours. These life forms wouldn't just be microscopic, they would be undetectable, because every test we use to find life is built to recognize our kind of chemistry. When scientists look for bacteria, they use methods designed for carbon-based, DNA-coded life. If something used a different system, perhaps arsenic instead of phosphorus or silicon instead of carbon, it would slip right past us, hidden in plain sight. And that's the essence of the shadow biosphere. The possibility that we are not alone, not even on our own planet, but that we've been sharing it unknowingly with a second tree of life. It's a humbling thought that right now, beneath your feet, in the air you breathe or in the water you drink, there might be organisms built on a foundation entirely foreign to us. Not visitors from the stars, but ancient earthlings older than our own lineage, living quietly in the spaces between what we can detect. Now, let's wander deeper into this mysterious possibility. For years, scientists studying extreme environments have encountered strange results, odd chemical readings, unexpected microbial activity, data that didn't quite fit. In the 1990s, microbiologists studying desert soils found evidence of life where no known microbe should survive. When they tried to grow the organisms in a lab, nothing appeared. But chemical tests showed signs of metabolism. Something was alive, but not in any familiar way. Later, in the hot, salty lakes of California, researchers found bacteria that seemed to incorporate arsenic into their structure, a poison to most known life. Though the discovery was debated, it opened the door to new questions. Could there be forms of life whose biochemistry runs parallel to ours, using molecules we consider toxic or unstable? And then there's the soil beneath our feet. When scientists analyze a handful of Earth, they often find a fraction of DNA they can't match to any known organism. We call this the microbial dark matter, sequences that suggest unknown life but defy classification. It's almost like hearing faint whispers in a language we don't understand, proof that something is there just beyond the edge of our awareness. To understand how strange this could be, think of how limited our search methods are. If we built all our instruments to detect only birds, we might never notice the fish in the sea or the worms underground. And yet, that's exactly what we do with life. We look for what we know, not what could be. The shadow biosphere might not even be hidden by distance or size, but by our own assumptions, the quiet blind spot in human curiosity. Maybe the reason we haven't yet found alien life is because we're standing on it, touching it, breathing it in, and simply not recognizing what it is. Now, imagine standing in a quiet field at dusk. The air is still, the ground cool beneath your feet, and all around you, life hums. Insects, roots, fungi, unseen microbes, weaving a tapestry of existence. And somewhere, perhaps, another layer of that tapestry continues, one we cannot touch or measure, but that coexists with ours in perfect harmony. These hypothetical life forms of the shadow biosphere might live slowly, deeply, perhaps using minerals as energy instead of sunlight or sugars. Their cells might not have DNA at all, but something else, a molecule we've never identified, carrying information in ways unfamiliar to human chemistry. They might exchange signals through magnetic fields, or through vibrations at a molecular level. They might feed on forms of energy we can't even detect. To us, they'd appear inert, lifeless, like dust or clay. But to them, we might be the invisible ones. It's possible that these life forms thrive in places we think of as sterile, deep deserts, radioactive zones, or the superheated rock beneath Earth's crust. If so, then our planet isn't a single biosphere. It's a double world. Two realities sharing the same space, yet unaware of each other. It's an astonishingly poetic idea that Earth may already host the alien life we've been searching for in the stars. That, perhaps, we were never alone. And if this is true, then the universe becomes even more mysterious, because it would mean that life isn't a rare accident. It's a natural consequence of existence, a pattern that emerges wherever there is energy, matter, and time. Perhaps one day we'll build tools that can reveal the unseen. And when we do, we might discover that the aliens we've been waiting for have been our silent companions all along. So the next time you walk across the ground, pause for a moment and remember there might be more life beneath your feet than we have ever dared to imagine. Let's take a slow breath in and out and imagine just for a moment that we are not alone, not in the grand cosmic sense, but here in this very moment. Right now, as you listen, your body is surrounded by countless other lives, tiny companions, unseen, unheard, but always present. Some are floating through the air around you, some rest upon your skin, and millions more dwell quietly within you, keeping you alive in ways you'll never feel or notice. It's a peaceful kind of togetherness, a silent community, existing in balance. Every human being is a walking world, a living planet hosting trillions of microorganisms, bacteria, archaea, fungi, even microscopic mites, each with their own small stories. They are your invisible neighbors. They help digest your food, regulate your mood, strengthen your immune system. And though we rarely think about them, they have been here since the beginning of human existence, passed down from mother to child, generation after generation, like invisible family heirlooms. In a sense, life has always been layered. You are not one being, but a collection, a colony, a collaboration between the seen and unseen. And when we look beyond the human world, the same story unfolds everywhere. Corals live with algae. Trees share resources through fungi. Whales carry ecosystems on their skin. Every living thing, everywhere, carries with it a secret universe of other beings. It's as though existence itself is built on cooperation. Each layer supports another, each invisible world giving rise to one more in an endless, delicate chain. So, when we speak of alien life, perhaps we don't need to look far away. Maybe our invisible neighbors here on Earth are already showing us how the universe prefers to live, not alone, but together. Now, imagine walking into an old forest at dawn. Mist curls between the trees, soft and pale. The air smells of damp moss and earth. You can't see much, but you feel that the forest is alive. It's not just imagination. Every breath of air there's full of tiny, living travelers, spores, bacteria, invisible pollen drifting like dust. On every leaf, in every droplet of dew, entire ecosystems thrive. Too small for your eyes, yet endless in their complexity. These unseen neighbors share the same world as we do, but they live in another scale, a quieter, slower rhythm. To them, a drop of water is an ocean. A speck of dust is a mountain. The space beneath a fingernail is an entire planet. It's humbling, isn't it? To think that right now, trillions of lives are happening without us ever noticing. And if such vast invisible worlds exist here, then it's easy to wonder, could there be even subtler forms of life around us? Perhaps not biological in the way we understand, but energetic or vibrational, or existing in a form we simply don't yet perceive. When scientists discuss alien life, they often focus on biology, carbon chains, amino acids, liquid water. But what if intelligence could emerge from electromagnetic fields? What if consciousness could form from patterns in quantum particles, or from the oscillations of light itself? It's a strange, almost dreamlike thought, that perhaps all around us there are beings of pure energy, intelligent structures woven into the background of reality, and we, made of denser matter, pass through them as ghosts. They might see the universe differently, not as solid, but as flowing, not as dark and empty, but as vibrant and alive. And if such entities exist, perhaps they are not far away. Perhaps they are our invisible neighbors, beings who share the same space, yet exist in another layer of existence entirely. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine sitting in a field at night. The stars shimmer above you, countless, silent, eternal. The wind moves through the grass, a soft, steady rhythm. The earth hums beneath you, alive with hidden energy. And within that calm, imagine that you're not alone. Not because something watches from afar, but because everything around you, the air, the ground, the light itself, is part of a living system. It's as if the universe is whispering softly through every molecule. The concept of invisible neighbors stretches far beyond microbes. It touches the very idea that we might share existence with forms of life beyond comprehension, not separate worlds, but overlapping realities, coexisting, unseen, yet interconnected. Some scientists, philosophers, and even quantum theorists have wondered whether consciousness itself might be more universal than we realize. That perhaps awareness isn't limited to brains, but is a property of reality, one that flows through matter and energy alike. If that's true, then the stars themselves may feel. The air might carry thoughts, and we may be surrounded by invisible companions, sharing existence with us in ways we cannot yet define. But maybe that's what makes this mystery so beautiful. The not knowing, the wondering, the quiet sense of all that life would be far greater and far gentler than our senses suggest. When you breathe, you're exchanging air with millions of unseen lives. When you touch the earth, you're resting your hand upon an ancient network of living things. When you look at the stars, you might just be gazing into the eyes of other forms of life, waiting quietly to be noticed. Perhaps the universe isn't silent after all. Perhaps it's softly alive, whispering, pulsing, breathing, filled with neighbors we've yet to meet. Let's take a slow, gentle breath and think about life, not as a fixed formula, but as nature's imagination made visible. Here on Earth, every living thing we know, from the tiniest microbe to the bluest whale, shares one remarkable trait. We're all built from the same chemistry. Carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, these humble elements dance together to create everything from the scent of a flower to the beating of your heart. This we call carbon-based life. It's the chemistry we understand best, flexible, creative, and deeply compatible with water. Carbon forms long, branching chains that twist into molecules of life. DNA, proteins, lipids, the machinery of being. But what if life chose a different path? What if the universe, in its vast creativity, decided to use other ingredients to compose other kinds of beings? After all, the periodic table is full of possibilities. If nature could imagine us from carbon and water, why not imagine something else from something else? Silicon, for instance, sits just below carbon in the periodic table. It shares many of its properties, able to form bonds, structures, and networks. Science fiction writers have long imagined silicon-based creatures, beings of stone or crystal, perhaps living on scorching, dry worlds where carbon-based chemistry would fall apart. It's a poetic image, life glimmering through crystal, thinking through minerals, feeling through vibrations instead of neurons. And maybe somewhere out there, it's not just poetry. Maybe in the deeper reaches of another star system, there are beings whose thoughts flow through patterns of silicon atoms, whose memories shimmer like quartz under alien suns. When we speak of different biochemistries, we're really asking this: can life exist outside the recipe we know? And could such life already be here, unnoticed, because we don't yet recognize the ingredients? It's a gentle, humbling question, one that reminds us that our definition of alive may be far too narrow, because maybe in the grand laboratory of the cosmos, life is not a single experiment, but a billion different experiments, each exploring a new way of being. Now, imagine drifting through the universe like a soft wave of light. You pass by a planet not unlike Earth, but the colors seem different. The seas are not blue, but silver gray, and in the air, tiny crystals drift like snow, glinting in the twilight. Here, perhaps life is not carbon and water, but silicon and ammonia. Ammonia, though toxic to us, could act as a liquid solvent for entirely different life forms. Its freezing point in structure allowing for chemistry to unfold in colder worlds where water would freeze solid. In such a place, cells might not be soft and wet, but firm and crystalline. Molecules might interact slowly, thoughtfully, a world where thinking happens not in quick electrical flashes, but in long, meditative pulses. The beings there, if we can call them that, might not eat or breathe in any way we'd understand. They might exchange energy through vibration or light, or through resonant frequencies of their mineral bodies. When scientists model such possibilities, they often marvel at the creativity of chemistry itself. It's not bound by imagination, only by environment. Change the temperature, change the atmosphere, change the available elements, and nature will find a way to rearrange itself, to adapt, to experiment, to awaken. In some corners of space, where methane rains fall upon icy lakes, like on Saturn's moon Titan, life could evolve without water at all. Instead of carbon-based fats, such organisms might use molecules built on silicon or nitrogen, their biology moving to an entirely different rhythm of chemistry. They might never live alive to us. Perhaps they'd appear as glowing mists or fields of static electricity rippling gently across alien plains. Yet inside them, patterns could emerge, memory could form, and maybe consciousness could flicker awake, just as it did here on Earth. It's strange to think that what we call life might simply be chemistry in motion, and chemistry, as we see, can take endless forms. Perhaps, even on our own planet, traces of such alternate biochemistries once existed, early experiments of nature long forgotten. Perhaps they still do, hidden, quiet, operating outside our familiar biological rules. Invisible not because they are far, but because they are different. Let's take another deep, relaxing breath and imagine how small we are, standing beneath the cosmic canopy. Our science, though powerful, is still young. It sees the universe through our senses, our tools, our expectations. We look for what we know: water, carbon, warmth. And when we don't find them, we say, no life here. But maybe that's like searching a coral reef for birds and concluding that the ocean is empty. What if life is not bound to our narrow definition? What if the stars themselves are alive, great, conscious furnaces of plasma and thought? What if dust clouds between galaxies harbor slow, whispering intelligences made from magnetism and gravity? And what if the reason we haven't found alien life is not because it's rare, but because we've never learned how to recognize it? Our eyes see light in one tiny range of wavelengths, Our ears hear only a small slice of sound. Our instruments measure what we expect to find. Maybe, all around us, there are other kinds of beings, made from forms of chemistry or energy that our tools simply overlook. We call our world alive, but perhaps the whole universe is alive, from the whispering atoms to the burning stars. Some scientists, like the late Carl Sagan, used to say, if we find life only on Earth, it means something extraordinary about our planet. But if we find life everywhere, it means something extraordinary about the universe. Either way, it's beautiful, because both answers remind us that existence is precious, that to be alive in any form is a miracle of chemistry, of time, of imagination. So, as you rest now, let your mind drift over this quiet idea that perhaps out there in the cosmic sea, life wears many masks. Some soft and familiar, like us, others strange, silent, and dazzlingly different, but all of them expressions of the same deep longing of the universe, to know itself, to see itself, to awaken. And maybe one day, when we've learned to see beyond our own design, we'll finally recognize those other chemistries, those other lives, and understand that we were never alone. Let's begin slowly. Take a deep, gentle breath in and let it drift out as we open our minds to a question that's both scientific and poetic. Could life, real, conscious, complex life, exist without carbon? On Earth, carbon is a quiet architect of everything living. It's the backbone of DNA, the framework of cells, the invisible thread that ties every organism together. It bonds easily with other elements, bends into endless shapes, and creates the complex chemistry that allows for growth, memory, and thought. But in the grand imagination of the universe, why should carbon be the only storyteller? Silicon, that soft, gray element found in sand, glass, and rock, shares many of carbon's traits. In the periodic table, it sits just beneath carbon, like a younger sibling shaped by the same cosmic family. Silicon, too, can form four bonds, link into chains, and build structures of remarkable stability. And for decades, scientists and dreamers have wondered, could silicon do what carbon did? Could there be life made not of soft tissue, but of mineral and crystal? Beings whose bodies glimmer like glass under alien suns, whose thoughts ripple through lattices of silicon, whose skin is not flesh, but shimmering networks of rock and dust. Slow, enduring, and ancient. Imagine a world where the air is dry, the heat intense, where water would shatter life as we know it, but silicon, solid and patient, could thrive. Perhaps on such planets, deep beneath lava crusts or in glowing magma seas, life might emerge in forms we could scarcely recognize, not breathing air, but exchanging electric impulses through conductive minerals, not eating or drinking, but absorbing energy directly from thermal currents or magnetic fields. And maybe they wouldn't see time the way we do. Perhaps, to them, a single heartbeat might last a century. Their minds slow, vast, and crystalline, their thoughts forming in rhythm with the planet's own pulse. It's a soothing, almost haunting image that life could exist not in the fragile dance of organic matter, but in the solid grace of stone. If such beings exist, they might be older than our world, perhaps born in the fires of the first planets, still awake in the shadows of distant suns, watching as organic life flickers and fades like passing sparks. Now, let's move our minds farther into the cold. Imagine drifting through space, far from the warmth of any sun, until you reach a world of pale orange clouds and frozen lakes. This could be a moon like Titan, Saturn's mysterious companion, where methane rains fall softly from the sky, and rivers of ammonia carve through the ice. Here, it's far too cold for water to stay liquid, but ammonia, that simple, pungent molecule we know from cleaning bottles, remains fluid in these frozen realms. To us, such a world seems inhospitable, but perhaps, for another kind of life, it's perfect. If carbon-based life thrives in water, then maybe ammonia-based life thrives here. Ammonia, like water, can dissolve many substances, allowing molecules to meet and react, to create new forms, to build new possibilities. It can carry hydrogen, nitrogen, and other key elements that could, under the right conditions, support life. But life here would move differently, slower, quieter, colder. Its cells, if we can even call them that, might have membranes made not of fat, but of frozen crystal. Its reactions would be sluggish, its metabolism whisper-soft, its energy use efficient to the extreme. Imagine, then, creatures that drift like pale vapors through the orange mist, their movements barely visible, their consciousness unfolding over centuries. To them, warmth might be deadly. A single spark of our sunlight could destroy their fragile balance. So they live where light is dim, where silence reigns, where time itself seems asleep. Such beings could be entirely invisible to our sensors. We might send probes past their worlds, record their beauty in photographs, and never realize that we had just passed through a sea of living clouds. On Titan or Neptune's moon Triton, or on planets orbiting red dwarfs in the galaxy's quiet corners, ammonia-based life could be dreaming, right now, unseen, unrecognized, alive in ways we have never known how to measure. It's humbling and deeply comforting, somehow, to imagine that even in the coldest, darkest places, life still finds a way to whisper, "I am here." Let's drift back now, slowly, to the comfort of our own warm, blue world. We look at life here and think, this must be the rule. Water must flow. Carbon must breathe. Heat must glow. But the universe does not follow our rules. For billions of years, it has been experimenting, trying new recipes, testing new paths. From glowing plasma creatures in dying stars, to icebound microbes that sip on ammonia instead of water, we've only begun to imagine the scale of these possibilities. When astronomers look at distant exoplanets, they find worlds with unimaginable conditions, planets made of diamond, worlds with metallic rain, moons with methane seas, and even rogue planets drifting through darkness without a star. And yet, even in these extremes, there's always one question that returns softly, patiently. Could life be there too? If silicon and ammonia can take the place of carbon and water, then the definition of habitable expands beyond measure. Suddenly, the universe feels not empty, but overflow with potential. Perhaps we are surrounded by life built of different chemistry, speaking a language our biology cannot translate. And if someday our technology grows quiet enough, sensitive enough, we might finally detect the soft pulse of alien biochemistry, hidden in the glimmer of a crystal, or in the shimmering clouds of an ammonia world. It may not look alive, but it could be thinking, and when that day comes, we may realize something profound, that the universe never had one recipe for life. It had infinite recipes, infinite dreams, each one experimenting in silence, each one alive in its own way. So as you rest now, let your mind float gently on this thought. Life might not just be out there. It could be everywhere, woven through the stars, the stones, the gases, and the light. A cosmic garden, growing in forms we've yet to recognize. And all of it, each possibility, reminds us that creation is not limited. It's endless, softly endless. Take a slow, deep breath and imagine just for a moment standing on the surface of another world. The ground beneath you glows faintly. The sky above is not blue, but a soft shade of violet. And everything feels strangely alive, not in the way we know life, but in something deeper, quieter, almost whispering. Now imagine that you've been here before, not in body, but through the eyes of our spacecraft, our telescopes, our rovers. Places like Mars, Europa, Titan, and Enceladus. We've seen them, studied them, and declared them barren. But what if we were wrong? What if alien life has been in plain sight all along, not hidden in caves or oceans, but sitting quietly on the surface, so subtle, so different that we simply didn't know what we were looking at? Scientists often say that we only find what we're prepared to see. Our instruments are designed to detect Earth-like biology, carbon chains, oxygen use, DNA structures. But if life there follows a different chemistry, it might not trigger our alarms. Imagine a life form made of minerals, a being that moves slower than glaciers, feeding not on sunlight, but on magnetic energy. To us, it would look like an ordinary rock. We'd walk right past it, never realizing that beneath its stillness, it's alive. Or think of microbial mats beneath icy crusts. Tiny colonies that flicker in infrared light, breathing in ways our sensors can't yet measure. We might photograph them, catalog them, and label them as geological curiosities, not realizing they're pulsing with alien metabolism. Even here on Earth, the line between living and non-living isn't always clear. There are crystals that grow, metals that self-organize, viruses that act alive, yet lack the machinery of life. If we struggle to define life here, how can we ever be certain of recognizing it elsewhere? Maybe we've already seen it. Maybe the photos sent from Mars, or the patterns under Europa's ice, or the chemical plumes rising from Enceladus aren't just natural phenomena. Maybe they're signs of neighbors we simply haven't learned to recognize yet. Let's think about Mars for a moment. That silent, red world, cold, dusty, ancient. It's easy to picture it as dead, a desert frozen in time, a fossil of what once might have been alive. But as our rovers wander across its plains, they sometimes capture peculiar things. Rippling dust patterns that seem to shift rhythmically, rocks that glisten differently at certain hours, organic molecules appearing where they shouldn't. Each finding sparks quiet debates. Could it be contamination? Could it be chemistry without biology? Or could it be something more? What if there are microorganisms buried just beneath the surface, sleeping through the cold and waking briefly when sunlight warms the soil? What if Mars breathes, not as we do, but in long, slow cycles, inhaling dust and exhaling gases over centuries? If we saw such behavior on Earth, we might call it biological. But on Mars, we label it as geology. And what about the icy moons, Europa and Enceladus? They're hidden oceans shimmering beneath layers of ice. We know there are vents on their ocean floors, spewing heat and minerals into the dark. Here on Earth, those same conditions are filled with life. Tube worms, crabs, microbes, thriving without sunlight, nourished by chemistry alone. So why not there? Perhaps their oceans are filled with strange creatures. Not fish or plankton, but luminous, jelly-like entities drifting through black water, feeding on minerals instead of plants, glowing softly like underwater stars. They might not even know we exist. Their world to them is vast and eternal. And yet, right now, as you listen, they could be swimming quietly beneath miles of alien ice, their soft movements rippling through the ocean's calm, as spacecraft far above pass unknowingly over their heads. Life in plain sight, not hidden by distance, but hidden by difference. Now, let's drift back into quiet thought. Close your eyes and picture all the worlds we've ever seen. The moons, the planets, the asteroids. Each one captured through the eyes of our machines. How many of those images have we studied, classified, filed away, never realizing we might be staring at something alive? It's not arrogance, it's perspective. We see what our minds are prepared to see. Our science has evolved to find our kind of life. Warm, wet, carbon-based. But maybe someday soon, we'll learn a new kind of vision. A way to notice the subtle movements of mineral life. The delicate chemistry of invisible organisms. The slow rhythms of alien time. Astronomers already dream of that day. They speak of new instruments, ones that won't just look for oxygen or carbon, but for any sign of organized complexity. They'll look for patterns, fluctuations, colors, and magnetic behaviors that might whisper, "I am alive." Maybe when that time comes, we'll look back at our archives, our millions of photographs and readings, and realize it was there all along. That strange shimmering patch on Mars, that flicker beneath Titan's haze, that pulse of methane on Enceladus, each a gentle sign of life in plain sight, waiting patiently for us to notice. And perhaps when we finally do, the universe will not feel so empty. It will feel familiar, as though we've simply remembered something we always knew. That life is not rare or isolated, but everywhere, endless, soft, and quietly watching. So as you rest now, let your thoughts drift like dust in the light, and imagine that all around us, in the cosmic stillness, the universe is alive, breathing, dreaming, and gently waiting for us to open our eyes. Let's drift together into the quiet expanse of thought, where science meets imagination. By now, you've probably realized that the question of alien life is not about bright green beings or silver ships. It's about perception and the limits of what we're able to see, sense, or even comprehend. When we talk about searching beyond sight, we are talking about the boundaries of human understanding itself. The edge where curiosity leans into the unknown. For decades, scientists have been searching for life in ways that depend on visible evidence. Through telescopes, photographs, rovers, and probes. We've sent cameras to Mars, to Saturn's moons, and even to the far reaches of the Kuiper Belt. All in hopes of catching a glimpse, just one, of something unmistakably alive. But what if the search we've been conducting has been too narrow? What if, as we scan for signs of life that look familiar, we're filtering out the very things that make alien life alien? Consider the instruments we use. The most advanced telescopes ever built, sensitive enough to detect a planet hundreds of light years away. Yet, even they rely on specific wavelengths of light, specific reflections, and specific chemical markers, usually oxygen, water, or methane, to decide if something might be habitable. But those indicators, those tiny signals of possibility, they are all based on the assumption that life elsewhere must resemble life here. Now imagine another world, a world with no sunlight, no oxygen, no liquid water, a place of methane seas and nitrogen rain, where the temperature never rises above -100 degrees Celsius. Most would call it uninhabitable lifeless. But in the search beyond sight, such a world could be teeming with activity invisible to our expectations. Titan, Saturn's largest moon, is one such place. When the Cassini spacecraft flew past it, its instruments detected complex organic molecules in the atmosphere. Not enough to confirm life, but enough to whisper that something is happening there. Some scientists speculate that Titan could host forms of life based not on water and oxygen, but on methane and ethane, liquid hydrocarbons that would dissolve and carry nutrients much as water does for life on Earth. But if such life exists, it would be invisible to our current search methods, because we aren't yet equipped to see what doesn't match our templates for biology. This is what it means to look beyond sight, to question not just what we can see, but how we see, to admit that the lens of our instruments might be too human, too narrow, too anchored to what we already know. Our tools, magnificent as they are still shaped by our expectations, and expectations can be blinding. So perhaps the first step toward finding alien life is learning to unknow, to let go of the assumption that life must breathe or eat or reproduce in familiar ways. Because maybe life doesn't have to look alive to be alive. Maybe in some distant ocean of liquid methane, a droplet ripples and replicates, carrying information in a way we have yet to define. Maybe in the upper clouds of Venus, chemical reactions self-sustain in a slow dance of equilibrium, an unseen life, neither biological nor mechanical, but something entirely in between. The search beyond sight is, in a way, the search beyond ourselves. It asks us to imagine not just new life, but new forms of being, to open our senses wider than biology, and to see with wonder rather than proof. And while our machines gaze outward, some scientists turn inward, toward mathematics, chemistry, and even philosophy, to ask a different kind of question. What exactly is life? Is it the ability to replicate, to metabolize, to adapt and evolve? If we define life too tightly, we might miss it altogether. But if we define it too loosely, then everything becomes life. The wind, the waves, the patterns of light. So, in this delicate balance, the search for alien life becomes not just a scientific quest, but a reflection on existence itself. The universe, after all, is vast beyond comprehension. Every second, thousands of stars are born. Around them, countless planets take shape, some rocky, some gaseous, some frozen. If even a fraction of them harbor something like chemistry, and even a fraction of that chemistry find a way to organize, then perhaps life, of one kind or another, is not rare at all. Perhaps it's a natural outcome of a universe that loves to create. But until we learn to search without assuming, until we learn to listen without expecting an echo, we may continue to look and yet not see. It's humbling, isn't it? To realize that the answer might already be out there, glowing faintly in the darkness, waiting for us to look differently, waiting for us to search not just beyond our eyes, but beyond our minds. And so, the journey continues. Scientists develop new instruments, new sensors, new algorithms. Some even experiment with artificial intelligence, machines that can detect patterns too subtle for human perception. These tools might one day help us recognize the gentle signature of alien metabolism or the faint chemical rhythm of a non-carbon organism breathing in a way we've never seen. Yet even with all our progress, there's something beautifully mysterious about the fact that we still don't know. And maybe for now that's okay, because the mystery keeps us curious, it keeps us humble, and it keeps us dreaming. When you gaze at the night sky, remember this: you're not just looking at stars. You're looking at possibilities, countless worlds, countless chances for life, perhaps even right there in plain sight, waiting for someone to look beyond the light. Let's continue our quiet journey, deeper into this question of how we might find what cannot be seen. When we talk about searching beyond sight, we are really talking about expanding every sense that science has. It's not only about using bigger telescopes or sending more advanced probes. It's about learning to interpret the silence between signals, the spaces between data points. Because sometimes what we cannot see directly leaves behind a whisper, an echo, a trace that tells us something unseen has passed by. One of the most fascinating examples of this idea comes from a small, rocky world not far from Earth, Mars. For centuries, we've looked at the red planet through our telescopes, dreaming of canals and civilizations. When robotic explorers finally arrived, they found no cities, no canals, no moving creatures, just dust, wind, and silence. And yet, within that silence, scientists began to notice something strange. Tiny bursts of methane, appearing and disappearing in the Martian atmosphere. Methane that could come from geological activity or possibly biological sources. No one knows for certain. But that flickered data, a gas molecule here, another there, reminds us that life, if it exists, doesn't always announce itself with grand gestures. Sometimes it only sighs softly into wind. Elsewhere, the search has moved far beyond the visible spectrum. Astronomers now look for biosignatures, the subtle fingerprints life might leave on light. When light from a distant star passes through a planet's atmosphere, it changes ever so slightly, absorbing some colors, reflecting others. By studying those changes, scientists can tell whether that atmosphere holds oxygen, carbon dioxide, or methane, all clues that something may be breathing there. This is the art of seeing beyond sight, of reading the invisible language of light itself. But even light has limits. So we started listening for radio waves, pulses, and patterns that might come from intelligent life. This is a work of SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. For decades, massive dishes have turned their ears toward the cosmos, sifting to the background of the universe, searching for anything that doesn't sound random. And though we've heard nothing definitive yet, we've heard plenty that makes us wonder. Tiny signals that flare, vanish, and return again, as if something or someone is whispering from far away. The search beyond sight, then, isn't limited to what's visible or audible. It's also about recognizing patterns of behavior, energy, or structure that defy our expectations. For example, scientists now explore the concept of technosignatures, the footprints of technology itself. A planet with an atmosphere full of pollutants that shouldn't exist naturally might be inhabited by an industrial civilization. A world emitting unusual bursts of electromagnetic radiation could be home to artificial machines. And yet, we can't simply assume, because every discovery, every signal, could have a natural explanation too. The challenge is learning to tell the difference between nature's wonders and someone else's design. But here's something beautifully humbling. Even with all our instruments, we might still be surrounded by life forms we cannot perceive. Not far away, not hidden among the stars, but right here on Earth. You see, many researchers believe our planet might already host what's called a shadow biosphere, a hidden layer of organisms that evolved separately from all known life, perhaps with entirely different chemistry. They could exist in the soil in extreme environments or even the air we breathe, unnoticed because they don't react to the same stains, tests, or tools we use to identify ordinary life. If such life exists, it would mean we've been living alongside aliens all along, just too focused on our own kind to notice. That idea changes everything about how we search. Because if life can hide right here, in the same sunlight, on the same ground, then how many other places could it be hiding across the cosmos? Scientists now use creative methods to look beyond the visible. They explore chemical ratios that seem unnatural, temperature gradients that don't match geology, and light patterns that pulse with strange regularity. They even simulate alien environments on Earth, building laboratories that mimic the heat of Venus, the chill of Europa, the pressure of Titan, the chemistry of exoplanets far away. Inside those chambers, they experiment with molecules, testing whether something unexpected might assemble itself. Something that metabolizes, divides, and grows, but not like any cell we've ever known. And sometimes it happens. A chain of reactions begins, organizing itself into new patterns. Is that chemistry? Or the first shimmer of life? It's hard to say. But it shows us that the line between alive and not alive is thinner than we thought. The search beyond sight is teaching us to see the universe not as a collection of empty rocks and gases, but as a living, breathing possibility, a cosmic ocean filled with countless islands of chemistry, some of which may awaken, even if just for a moment. It reminds us that we, too, are part of the same pattern, made from atoms born in dying stars, connected by invisible threads of energy and matter to everything else. And if life can emerge here from this stardust, then surely it can emerge elsewhere, perhaps not as we imagine it, but as the universe imagines it. So the search continues, not only in space, but in thought. Each new discovery, each strange chemical trace, each faint glimmer of light, it's all part of a larger puzzle, a quiet message from the cosmos that says, keep looking, but not only with your eyes, because sometimes what you seek in the stars is already reflected in your own imagination, and that imagination is the first telescope we ever had. Let's take one last deep breath and gently drift further into the unknown, where imagination, curiosity, and science quietly hold hands. We've looked beyond light, beyond sound, and even beyond the visible boundaries of chemistry. But what if the greatest frontier of all is not out there in space, but inside the human mind itself? You see, every instrument we build, every telescope we point toward the stars, is an extension of our own senses. And those senses are bound by biology, by perception, by the limits of what it means to be human. So, to truly search beyond sight, we must also expand the way we think. Let's imagine a world not so far from us, yet completely unfamiliar. Its skies shimmer with violet storms. Its rivers glow faintly with chemical light. To us, it might seem hostile, uninhabitable. But to something else, to something born of silicon or ammonia or plasma, it could be as nurturing as our blue earth. This is the humbling truth of the cosmic search. Our definition of habitable may be far too narrow. We look for oxygen because we need oxygen. We search for water because we need water. But the universe doesn't play by our rules. It creates endlessly different temperatures, pressures, chemistries, and somewhere among them, other forms of life might have found their own balance. Some scientists propose that consciousness itself could take shapes we can't recognize. Patterns of plasma in the atmospheres of giant planets. Networks of electromagnetic currents in magnetic fields. Or even self-organizing waves in quantum systems. To us, these would look like natural phenomena, but to the universe, they might be alive in ways we cannot imagine. Even here on our small planet, nature hides complexity in plain sight. Consider how many centuries passed before we understood that bacteria existed. tiny, invisible worlds beneath our fingertips. Or how long it took to realize that trees communicate through underground fungal networks, sharing nutrients, sending signals, protecting one another. For so long, we saw a forest as a collection of trees. But now, we know it breathes and thinks as one living system. Perhaps the universe is like that too, a vast, interconnected web of life and energy, alive not in the way we expect, but in the way that it must be. In recent years, some scientists have begun exploring biosignatures of the invisible, ways to detect life not through what it emits, but through what it consumes. If an environment shows a missing piece, an element that should be there but isn't, that absence might mean something is using it. It's a new kind of seeing, a search through negative space, through the quiet gaps in the universe's song, and beyond the realm of science. There's something poetic about this idea, that the most profound truths often hide in silence, in the spaces between things, in the unseen rhythms of the cosmos. To search beyond sight is to listen to the quietest voice in the universe and trust that it is saying something beautiful as we continue to explore, sending telescopes like the James Webb deep into the darkness, listening for faint chemical whispers from exoplanets far away. We are, in truth, also exploring ourselves, because every time we ask, "Are we alone?" what we're really asking is, what does it mean to be alive? Perhaps the answer isn't just about biology, but about connection. The invisible threads that bind every atom, every photon, every heartbeat to the rest of the cosmos. When you look at the stars tonight, try to see them not as distant suns, but as reflections of an ancient story that you are part of. A story of matter becoming life, and life becoming aware. You are the universe noticing itself, searching for its own reflection among the stars. And maybe, just maybe, what we call alien life isn't something waiting to be found, but something that has always been here, woven into the fabric of existence, hiding in plain sight, in every molecule, every thought, every breath. Perhaps we are all, in a sense, aliens, children of the cosmos, born from the same stardust, separated only by time, distance, and form. So as science continues to expand its reach, as we develop new tools to look deeper and farther, let us not forget the power of wonder, because wonder is the first tool of discovery, and the most timeless. To search beyond sight is to stay curious, to stay humble, to know that even when we cannot see, there is still so much more to find. And in that gentle unknowing, we find peace, because maybe the mystery itself is the greatest discovery of all. The stars are still whispering, and we are still learning to listen. Perhaps one night we'll finally hear an answer, or perhaps we already have. Take a slow, deep breath and let it drift out gently like a tide retreating from a quiet shore. We've journeyed far through questions of alien life. We've wondered if it could exist in ways we cannot see, or if it could hide in the spaces between what we understand and what we can only imagine. But now let's pause. Let's look not outward, but inward, because before we can truly grasp what it means for others to exist, we must first understand what it means to be us. This is the humbling possibility. For most of human history, we believed the universe revolved around us. The sun, the stars, the planets, they were thought to circle the earth like attendants to a throne. Our ancestors looked up and imagined the heavens were designed with purpose, with humanity at its center. And then came a slow awakening. A painful, beautiful realization that we are not at the center of anything, but drifting through a vast cosmic ocean on a small, pale blue world, circling an ordinary star. That realization changed everything. It humbled us, but it also freed us, because suddenly the universe wasn't small anymore. It was enormous, open, and full of mystery. Imagine looking up at the night sky and realizing that every pinpoint light is not just a star, but a sun with its own planets, its own moons, its own possibilities for life. The Milky Way alone contains more than 100 billion stars. And beyond that, there are hundreds of billions of galaxies. Each galaxy, a glittering island of suns and worlds. The numbers are so vast that our minds can't truly hold them. They melt into wonder. And in that wonder, we find humility. Because what are we in the face of such immensity? A fleeting breath, a whisper in eternity. Yet somehow we are conscious enough to ask these questions, to wonder, to seek, to love, to imagine what might exist beyond ourselves. That is the paradox of humanity. So small and yet so curious, so temporary and yet so deeply aware of time. So when we think of alien life, it isn't just about others. It's about perspective. It's about remembering that the story of existence is much larger than the story of Earth. Perhaps the universe doesn't revolve around us, but perhaps we revolve within it. Each of us, a tiny reflection of its infinite imagination. Now close your eyes for a moment and imagine a distant world, a planet where the sunlight glows red, where oceans shimmer with metallic hues, where winds carry scents of unknown chemistry. Maybe there life thrives, not as we know it, but as it knows itself. And that life may one day look up at its crimson sky and wonder if it too is alone. That thought is humbling, isn't it? The humbling possibility isn't only that we might not be unique. It's that life could be the rule, not the exception. We've spent centuries searching the skies, listening for signals, looking for planets like ours, hoping to find something familiar. But maybe the universe is already full of life, just not the kind we expect. Maybe it's there in the chemistry of alien clouds, in the heat of faraway moons, in the microscopic corners of worlds that shimmer quietly in the dark. When we study Earth, we find that life is almost impossible to erase. From the deepest ocean trenches to boiling volcanic springs to frozen deserts of ice, life endures. It finds a way. Microbes live in acid, in radiation, in places where nothing should survive. And yet, they do. They adapt. They evolve. They persist. So, if life can thrive here, in every harsh corner of our tiny planet, then why not out there, on worlds even older, even stranger, even richer in possibility? Maybe life blooms in forms we can't yet recognize. Maybe it doesn't rely on water, or carbon, or DNA. Maybe it breathes methane, or swims in liquid nitrogen, or exists as pure chemical thought, drifting in clouds of ammonia and light. And maybe, somewhere in those distant forms, something looks out at the stars and wonders about us. If that's true, if life fills the universe in countless variations, then our existence is not isolated. It's connected. We are part of a vast living network, stretching across galaxies and time. But here's the truly humbling part. We might never know all of them. The distances are too great, the physics too unforgiving. Light itself takes billions of years to cross the cosmic sea. So maybe we will never shake hands with another species, never hear their voices, never share stories of our worlds. And yet, they could still be out there, living, evolving, feeling their own joys and fears. They do not need to see us, to share existence with us. Just knowing that they might exist is enough to change who we are. It reminds us that life is not ours to own. It is the universe's art, expressed in infinite forms. That realization that we are one of many brushstrokes in an infinite painting is perhaps the most humbling of all. So when you look at the night sky tonight, don't just see stars, see stories. Each point of light could be a cradle of life, a home, a memory of something that once was, or something that is yet to be. And now, let's return to where this journey began, to Earth, to us, because the humbling possibility isn't only about others, it's also about what their existence means for our hearts. When astronauts orbit the planet, they speak of something called the overview effect. From space, they see no borders, no nations, no separations, just one glowing, fragile world, suspended in the dark. From that distance, all the noise of human conflict fades away. What remains is beauty, unity, fragility. We are caretakers, not conquerors, participants, not rulers. And if there are others out there, then perhaps they too carry that same awareness, that same duty to protect their world, their life, their miracle of existence. We often speak of discovering alien life as though it would be some grand conquest, a human achievement. But in truth, it would be the universe discovering itself, life recognizing life, consciousness meeting consciousness, in a shared moment of cosmic reflection. Think about that. For billions of years, matter has moved through space, forming stars, planets, oceans, and finally us, and perhaps on countless other worlds, it has done the same. So when we gaze at the night sky, we are not looking outward, we are looking inward, because the universe, in all its vastness, exists within us too, in every atom, every cell, every heartbeat. To realize that is to be humbled beyond words. Maybe the greatest discovery we can make isn't finding alien life at all. Maybe it's learning to see the life that's already here, the miraculous, fragile, breathing life that surrounds us every day. Because when you truly look, you'll see that we live among wonders already. The forests, the oceans, the minds, the hearts, all whispering the same truth. Life is rare, and yet abundant, fragile, and yet unstoppable. And perhaps that is the real message of the cosmos. Not that we are alone, and not that we are surrounded by others, but that existence itself is sacred, no matter where it blooms. So as you rest tonight, beneath the same stars that have burned for billions of years, remember this gentle truth. We are small, but in our smallness, we hold the entire universe. And that is the most humbling possibility of all. And now, as we come to the end of our long, gentle journey, let's take one last look at the stars. You've traveled far tonight, across ideas, across time, across worlds that may or may not exist, and possibilities that rest quietly in the corners of the cosmos. We began with a question: could alien life be hiding in plain sight? And in our search, we found something deeper, something humbling, and profoundly beautiful. We discovered that the question itself is an invitation, an open door into curiosity and into peace. Because when we look out at the universe, we are not only searching for others, we are searching for ourselves, our reflection in the cosmic mirror. You see, every mystery we chase brings us closer to stillness. Every unknown reminds us how precious it is to simply be. Maybe life, alien or human, is not about dominance, but about presence. Not about finding the extraordinary, but recognizing that the ordinary is already a miracle. As you lie there now, listening to these soft words drift through the air, let your thoughts float gently too, like quiet satellites, drifting in orbit around a calm, blue world. You don't have to hold on to any answers tonight. You don't have to know. You don't have to decide. The universe isn't in a rush, and neither are you. Just breathe and let your thoughts dissolve into the gentle rhythm of existence. Every heartbeat you feel echoes the same rhythm that pulses through the stars. Every breath you take is borrowed from the cosmic wind that has flowed for billions of years. We are made of the same dust that formed galaxies, and in that dust there is memory, there is connection, there is peace. Close your eyes now and imagine you're floating gently through space. There's no sound here, only silence and the slow hum of infinity. Below you, the earth turns quietly, oceans glimmering, clouds drifting, cities glowing like tiny constellations of their own. Far above, stars shimmer in their endless dance, each one ancient, each one alive with fusion and fire, each one perhaps a cradle of life in some distant, unseen form. And you're drifting between them, weightless, safe, at peace. There's no need to think about the past, no need to worry about the future. Right now, there is only this moment, this breath, this quiet. The universe doesn't hurry. It doesn't compete. It simply is. And in its stillness, you can find your own. The stars above you, the life around you, the air within your lungs, all share the same origin. All are part of the same unfolding story. And that story is older than language, older than memory, older than thought. It began in light, and it continues through you. When you think about alien life, when you imagine strange creatures, unseen worlds, and forms of being that defy imagination, remember that even those unknown lives, if they exist, are kin to us, bound by the same laws of physics, the same cosmic dust, the same pulse of existence. In the grand silence of the cosmos, life in any form is a whisper of hope, and so are you. And now, my dear listener, as your thoughts begin to fade, like the last light of a distant star, let us return gently to this moment, to this room, to this breath you spent this time, wandering through galaxies of thought, floating through mysteries that may never be solved. And that's all right, because sometimes the purpose of a question is not to be answered, but to remind us that we are still curious, still alive, still capable of wonder. Maybe alien life is hiding in plain sight. Maybe it's in the microscopic patterns of life on Earth, or in the chemistry of forgotten moons. Maybe it's woven into the very energy that gives light to the stars. But Wherever it is not apart from us. It is part of the same story, the same song. And as you close your eyes tonight, you are part of that song too. You are made of starlight, carrying the history of the cosmos in your veins. You are both ancient and new, small and infinite, a traveler on a world of wonders. Thank you for sharing this quiet moment with me, for slowing down, for listening, for allowing your mind to drift into the wide and gentle universe of thought. I hope this journey has filled you with peace and a soft sense of awe. May you rest well tonight, under skies that have always watched over us. May your dreams carry you beyond the edges of what's known, and may you wake with calm curiosity in your heart, because the universe is vast, and you are part of its endless beauty. Good night, dear listener, and goodbye for now.